Okay, so today's lesson is going to be on converting metric units of length. We're going to be looking at our metric units that are based on the meter. So we are looking at millimeters, centimeters, decimeters, meters being the base unit, decameters, hectometers, and kilometers or kilometers. And we have obviously discussed in class before we were on our hiatus from going to school, we were discussing when we watched the Brain Pop that we can use the mnemonic device. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, to remember the order. The first letter of each being the ones that we use. K for king lines up with kilo, H for Henry, hecto, D for doesn't lines up with deca, U for usually is the unit, which we just look at as the base unit, and for length, that base unit is the meter. And then we have D for deci, we have C for centa, and M for milla. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just attempting to change the pencil here so that I can write a little more clearly here. So I have the 5 in the base unit. So I'm looking at 5 meters is really what I'm starting out with. I'm looking at 5 meters. And if I want to know how many centimeters is 5 meters, I don't really like the way that pencil looks, so we're going to try and play around with that together, I think. Let's see if I can do something a little different here. I don't know. We'll see how this works. So if I'm looking to convert 5 meters into centimeters, just make that a little darker at the bottom there. So you'll notice that where I have the 5, because it's 5 meters, that's in the base unit spot there. And the decimal point comes to the right. So the decimal point is always going to come to the right of the number and the unit. So the base unit is meter. So you'll notice that the decimal point is to the right of meter before the next unit. And then the next unit would be decimeters. And then the next unit would be centimeters. So the decimal point goes to the line in between centimeter and millimeter on the chart. I have 2 empty spaces, so those become 0. So the answer becomes 500 centimeters. So 5 meters equals 500 centimeters. So I'm going to change my color here for a minute. Okay, so I'm using blue again. So if I wanted to say, let's do another one. Let's say 8 kilometers. 8 kilometers. And I want to know 8 kilometers equals how many meters? 8 kilometers equals how many meters? So actually I like this a little bit better. Can I erase this? Oh, look at that. Fabulous. So let's do this. 8 kilometers equals blank meters. A little bit of a learning curve here for me as well. So I ask you, of course, to be patient with me as I figure out the writing tools on the program here. So if I have 8 kilometers and I want to know how many meters that is. So we know that the 8 is in the kilometers column on the chart. And I put that decimal point right on the line to the right of the 8. And that's for kilometer. And then I scoop it through each one. So after kilometer is hectometer, so that's hecto. Then I go again for deca. And then I go again for the base unit, which is meters, and that's where it's going to stop. I fill in my 3 missing zeros, and my answer is 8,000 meters. So 8 kilometers becomes 8,000 meters. Now I do want to show you something else here. What I can actually do is for both of those examples, going back to 5 meters equals blank centimeters, back to the first example, I know that there are 100 centimeters in a meter. And I also know that when I go from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, I can multiply to get that same answer. So I don't have to use the chart. When I go from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, I can multiply. Big to small, I multiply. The same rule would have applied for the other example that we did. If you look back at that other example, 8 kilometers. I know there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, and 8 times 1,000 would give me 8,000. So the chart does the same trick as multiplying if I'm transferring, if I'm converting from a bigger unit to a smaller unit. So today's lesson is strictly going to talk about what happens when I want to make a bigger unit, convert that bigger unit to a smaller unit, and we are specifically looking at length. So our two examples were converting meters to centimeters and kilometers to meters.